Welcome to the Avance Podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm Nick, and I did not say our other name, so that's 1 point for me. You're welcome.
The old name.
The old name, yes, who we used to be before we went into Avance Witness Protection. So, or
That's right.
Witless Protection, or whatever it is. So, yes. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Doing
It's
good?
it's a sunny day today. The truck's dirty, but that's all right.
Wow. I mean, I tell you, I wanted to be outside all day today. I want to get the bikes out and start riding, and I've got to start.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking Brandon, Ben Powell, and Brian. I'm now back online looking at Man in the Box stuff, and I found it's stupid stuff too. I sent it to you guys. Nobody said anything, but I mean, it's a new kickstand. I don't need a new kickstand.
I know. I saw that too. I was like, that's really cool. I have no use for that.
I have no use to
want
that.
It.
I did order the new spring, or no, the new front cups in yellow.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
The fork tube, the outer fork tube.
So yeah, I'll have the yellow ones off of the yellow bike. Which, by the way, it's tough to hunt down. But again, don't need them. Didn't need to spend $200 on them, but it's going to look cool. So I'm excited about that. And if you don't know, we're definitely going to be doing another monkey run this year. So Dan and I are kind of getting that hyped up and trying to figure that out and pull the bikes out of storage. And well, you literally have to pull yours out of a barn. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're cleaned up. I've just got a bunch of parts to put on them and get them ready.
No,
and
I didn't say they weren't bad. They were in bad shape. I just said you had to pull them out of a barn. So yeah,
correct.
Same thing.
That is
Same
correct.
thing.
We need a motorcycle sponsor because our sponsors are great, but they don't give us motorcycle parts or discount on motorcycle parts, and that's what we really need right now.
I just take a motorcycle sponsor. I don't even need free stuff. I just want a motorcycle sponsor. So
yeah.
If we only
You've got me itching for a dual sport though right now, man. I've been looking at CRF 450 RLs relentlessly.
Good luck.
And then that Yamaha Tenere 700, but I'm going back to CRF. That's what I'm getting, but I just keep looking at all of them now.
It's funny because you put that in a message, and I was like, wait a minute, you're going to get. I mean, you can get them on. You can find them on Facebook. There's a lot of people have been selling them, but I love that bike. That bike, it still has the joy of I can still go down there and just look at it, and I love it. And it's
well, you always mod your stuff right, all of it. Like you know how to mod.
I don't. And I think
your stuff always
especially with
good.
bikes, I learned that from you. Like I mean, especially with that. Excuse me. It's been exhaust and chip and the thermostat delete made that bike really different. And then doing actually, I want to talk to you about something like that. We're going to do another thing, but there's a mod about taking off the lid that's under the seat for the airbox for helping circulation. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Not that I ride in a ton of water, but I don't want to suck a bunch of water in there. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, we'll go into that another time.
No, but I mean, put that on the list. Yeah,
yes. Yeah, we'll add that to the list.
I don't want to submerge it. So, yeah, do we have a Carter Motors tip of the week?
We do. I mean, we're still brought to you by Avance, obviously, because we're the Avance podcast now.
Yes.
Woohoo! Griot's Garage, and we do have a new code coming, I believe, for you guys. And then Haggerty Garage and Social, still a partner with us. And of course, Carter Automotive Group. Let's talk about their tip of the week. So, as I was doing some research for a closely related topic, I decided to admit to myself that I know nothing about anything besides Formula One. And of course, I was like, what else is there? I didn't even know Formula 2 was still a thing. It's been around since 2014. Boy, do I feel dumb saying that, but that's the truth, listeners. I didn't know Formula 2 was still a thing because I never watched it. I just watched Formula 1. All right, so what's the differences? That's what I thought we'd get into today. What's the high level overview of what are the differences between all these Formula series? So obviously, everyone knows Formula 1, top of the top, $3 million just to start in Formula 1. 1,000 horsepower, 18,000 RPM redline V8s, 230 plus mile an hour top speeds, 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, CIA levels of secrecy around how their steering wheels and engines are made. And you pretty much have to be a champion of F2, 3, and 4 and everything else to be an F1 driver. So there you go. That's Formula 1. Everybody knows that. For the most part, the most expensive sport in the world. But there's Formula 2.
It's so pretty, though. Once you go to a Formula 1 race, it makes so much more sense. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you get what you pay for. It's one of those things. Start with 20 million and maybe you'll make your 3 million investment back.
Start with a big amount.
That's like just for the car. I mean, if you're going to be honest, what's a Formula 1 budget? 100 million? I don't even know.
I mean, for Mercedes, probably. I mean, that's probably just to pay Lewis Hamilton or whatever his name is now. Now that he added his surname. Yeah.
All right, so Formula 2. All the cars are designed by Williams F1. So not F1, but they're all designed by the Williams F1 team. The cars are completely identical. The drivers are backed by the same race engineers, and that's more of a talent-driven thing. It focuses on the talent. So
I don't get
500 horsepower engines, about half.
Okay. Williams is always the one that, I mean, they've been in Formula One for years, and they're always
Yeah.
changing hands. In fact, they just sold, and it feels like they're
Yeah.
always losing. But they make so much money from, I would think, from doing that. You'd think they'd be better in Formula One with all the amount of stuff they do in Formula Two. So
Poor Williams.
Poor Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, half the horsepower, 500 horsepower in the engines, not the same V8, but also a V8. But these things only crank to 10,000 RPMs versus the 18,000 in an F1 car.
Okay.
They still go crazy fast. They're only about 20 miles an hour slower than F1, so low 200s, 2 to 210, more than fast enough for everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's like monumentally cheaper. Monumentally. It's about 300K compared to 3 million. So there's a bit of a difference there. But yeah, that's the high level overview F2.
Okay.
Now, F3, you're going to notice a trend here. All the same, the chassis are all built by a company named Mygale, Mygale. Top speed of about 165-ish. Again, since they're all designed similarly, the focus is much more on the talent. There's, I think, downforce changes in Formula 3 a little bit, so you get a lot more action in the corners.
They look like old F1 cars, like smaller.
They do. They
F1
look like
cars.
older F1 cars. They're pretty cool looking, actually. I really like the Formula 3 cars.
I wish I could fit in one.
Yeah, I wish I could fit in any of those cars.
I wish I could fit in any of those cars. Yeah.
I don't think I've been able to fit in one of those since 6th grade.
Oh, I was going to say first, but okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the main thing, though, that one reason you might want to really check out Formula 3 is they will do 3 races in the same day. So you get a lot of racing action all at once, whereas Formula 1 is one race for a whole weekend. So if you're looking for a lot of action all at once, Formula 3 is great. Formula 4. Okay, Formula 4 is not a worldwide thing. It's regional. And they are quite a bit slower. And by no means slow and by no means easy. They top out about 130 miles an hour.
Say they're still doing 140 miles an hour, yeah.
Right, on tight tracks, yeah. So even though they're not global, quite a bit lower bar of entry. They're Universal Series, but their regulations and vehicle specs they have tight regulations and specs like Formula 1, so you get a lot better driver-to-driver competition.
Okay.
You'll notice that in 2, 3, and 4. And then the last one I'm going to bring up, just because it is the new hotness, even though it's not that hot yet. Obviously, this is the way things are going. That's Formula E, the only one without a number in its name. These things are pretty close in number to Formula 4. So they're a little faster, top speed of about 135. Formula 1's 230, so 100 miles an hour less. But 0 to 60 is about 3 seconds, and Formula 1's about 1.3.
Which is funny because you'd think electric would be a lot faster for some reason. But,
Yeah.
But you're carrying a lot of weight from those batteries. So
a lot of weight, and I think that's probably all there is to it. But all those chassis are the Park Renault SR10 SRT01E is apparently the name of the chassis that they're all using. So
yeah, because
anyway.
McLaren's in that, and I know Jaguar's been in the Formula E as well, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did want to say that to your point about Formula 2 or 3 with the 3 races in a weekend. Formula 1 is not just one race. I mean, you were getting prep.
Oh yeah.
You're getting the pre-races, and if you go to a Formula 1 race, a lot of times they will be racing Formula 2 or 3 during the day, and just ripping it up. So it's still a lot of fun. So
yeah, as Nick will tell you, and I'm going to tell you, if you can go to Austin, go to Austin. That should be on your bucket list of a thing to do in your life.
Now we got 3, because you can do Austin, you can do Canada, and then this year we're starting Miami. If the hurricane doesn't take it off the planet or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah.
You probably notice I'm missing a couple of open wheel racers here.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the 2 that I know nothing about at all, even though we've had famous IndyCar drivers on our show before. Yeah, I don't know anything about IndyCar and Indy Lights, but our guest today definitely does. So we will move it over to him, and he will tell us all about that. Coming to us from Indianapolis, Benjamin Pedersen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I mean, great timing with the launch of the recent magazine and having a feature there from when we raced last year in Portland. So yeah, just thrilled to be with you guys, spend some time and talk about my career and what the kind of the future plans are, future goals, and yeah, all good.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on here. And I got to get this out of the way. A little bit of your background. You're Danish, or you speak Danish, correct? You're from Copenhagen?
Yep.
And as most of the people know that listen to this show, I have we'll call it, I'm using air quotes, slight affiliation or love of Lego.
Obsession?
Which is obsession. That's the word I'm looking for. Obsession, yeah. I was thinking of every word except the word. So, and it was funny because we were bringing that up because you can't see this, but he can see what's in my office. And he's like, what's going on behind there? And I'm like, that's a little bit of a Lego collection. And you brought up an interesting fact about the fact that one of the first cars you ever drove was at Legoland, correct?
That's right. Yeah, first motorized vehicle, I'd say, was at Legoland. They gave you like this little driver's license. I think my parents still have it, which showed that you were allowed to drive one of these vehicles. I was like 2 years old. It was ridiculous, but it looked like
Gotta
a
start them young. Yeah.
real driver's license. And yeah, so I think it started at Legoland.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, you've had a passion for automobiles and things like that since you were a kid.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my mom's side of the family is motocross. My dad's side, car racing. So there's just been this mutual love for motorsport. My first form of motorsport was motocross. I had a Yamaha PW50 as my first bike, as most people's first bike. Did motocross. Obviously you're only like 4 years old, right? So you're just riding around. And then went into go-karting right after that, and then the rest is history now.
That's an interesting mix. I don't usually hear the mom being on the motorcycle side. I've heard a lot of it on the car side, but I don't usually hear it on the motorcycle side.
Usually moms are on the anti-motorcycle side.
Yeah, exactly that.
More so, my mom's brother was into motocross, and then obviously when you're a sibling, you're dragged into it, right? So
got it.
Yeah, you're not exactly dragging, kicking, and screaming into motorsports when you're a little kid, though. Yeah, that's just the coolest stuff in the world.
Yep.
Do you still ride?
I can ride. I know how to ride. I don't, just because I don't want to injure myself, but I have a big passion for all forms of motorsport. I'm watching Supercross at the moment. Yeah, all action sports I'm a fan of. So if there's an engine, then you can sign me up, whether it's snowmobiling, whatever it is.
Yeah, I hear you. We're the same way. So you grew up, you're from Denmark. How old were you when you moved over here?
4 years old.
Oh, so really young. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much grew up in Seattle. Went to school in Seattle, and then moved to Indianapolis here last September. So I've been here for, 4 or 5 months now. This is my new home base, which makes a lot of sense with where I am in my career now. And loving it.
So we talked about the Car Distributor Tip of the Week and kind of outlined some of the racing and where F1, F2, F3. I mean, I have recently over the last few years become a huge F1 fan. But talk to us a little bit about your career and how you've worked your way up through the ranks and what you have kind of driven, and kind of give us a correlation between all that.
Absolutely. So you basically have to start to explain to someone maybe that doesn't really know anything about it. You have both open wheel racing, which is what an F1 or an Indycar looks like, and then you have closed wheel racing, like sports cars, your Ferraris, Lambos, all these kind of cars. I knew from when I started, I wanted to go open wheel racing. My goal is F1 or IndyCar, and usually if you make it to that level, you can always go sports car racing. So that's always an option. But in terms of career, it was very early that I knew open wheel was the choice. You then kind of look at it, when you know that, you basically have the route to F1 through Europe, and then you have the route to IndyCar through America. And it's very similar the way it racks up. But basically for F1, you start in F4, which is a entry-level car out of go-karting. You then go into F3, which is a car that is basically has a bit more of everything than an F4 car. You go to F2, same thing. It's more of everything, F1 being the highest level. Same thing in IndyCar. The whole road to Indy is what it's called over here. Just slightly different terminology. The first level being USF 2000, which is like F4. Then you got Indy Pro 2000, Indy Lights, which is like F2. And then you got IndyCar. So that's kind of like how it breaks up to make it simple. I'm currently in Indy Lights, the level just below IndyCar. But I also came up through the European system of F4, F3, British F3. So you can kind of mix match a little bit on your way there.
How old were you when you started in F4? Because that was where you officially started in pro level, right?
Yep. So I came out of go-karting, had my first test day at Roebling Road in Savannah, Georgia in an F4 car when I think it was 15 and a half. So I didn't even have my driver's license yet.
You had your Lego license. It counts.
Yeah,
totally
yeah. There you go. It's still valid. But yeah, that was my first. I wasn't even 16 yet. And then I went racing in F4 in cars in the inaugural season in 2016. That was my first year in cars. That's crazy saying that now, thinking back to I mean, that's a while ago, and I'm not even that old. So
you're only 22, right?
22, yeah.
You've done a lot in a little bit of time.
It's scary to think that it's that long ago, and I'm only 22. So.
Did your family support you all the way along? Has this always been something? I mean, you've been karting since into motorsports, obviously, since you were 4 years old. So they knew this was kind of a natural progression. Has there ever been any pushback on this from your family? Any worry from your mom?
Not that they've showed. They know since I started racing, the generation of cars I've been in have been so safe. So that's been a big factor. But they could tell I loved it so much. So it was just, and I'm grateful to this day and will forever be grateful and still grateful, that they support me with what I love, because it's by no means an easy sport for one to get into, and secondly to stay in and keep moving up through the ranks. I'm very grateful for all the supporters I have in the area as well. A lot of guys that have been supporting me since I started in car racing. So yeah, just very, very grateful. One of them being Dirtfish, the owner there supporting me since I started, and a bunch of other owners or companies in the area that have helped me from the beginning. So that it's a big help.
We are big fans of Dirtfish and the Rimmer family in general. They're just all around great people. We have great experiences with all of them. And of course, you were a driver at, or an instructor at Proformance for a while as well, too, I read.
Yeah. So very close to the Kitch family. Don asked me, I was just out at the track, and he said, "Hey, do you have any interest in helping out when you're around town, when you're not racing?" I said, "Of course I do." Don always super supportive of me, helped me with some decisions as well. So I got to know the Kitch family really well through that, worked for Proformance, met a lot of great people through that, learned a lot about myself with how to, one thing is learning how to race and everything around it, but to teach it to someone else that's new is also very healthy. And I'm very grateful for that.
If you follow motorsports, there's a lot of F1 drivers that have done Indy. Mario Andretti and people like that have come across the pond to do that. When you started out to do this, were you focused on just either getting a professional ride at the top level, or did you want to be an F1? I feel like a lot of the European kids, when they come up karting, they want to be an F1, and Americans, they want to be an Indy.
Yeah. If we go back to like 2016, when I joined F4, the goal there was definitely F1, because you're as a kid, you want to, that's the pinnacle at the time. As you then go through the years and the categories, you kind of realize that when you compare the road to F1 and IndyCar, the whole path to F1 is really strong. The only thing that's weak about it is actually getting to F1 compared to IndyCar when we're talking about that. The reason being, the budgets required for Formula One compared to IndyCar, the sponsorship, the politics. Politics plays a big role in that as well. You see guys even with budget that can go, they don't go because someone else has, whatever else playing in their favor. Whereas when you look at it now, you see how much more attainable it is to actually make it to IndyCar, which is the highest level. In cars that are built exactly the same, you have a chance of winning every weekend. And it's just a lot more attractive, in my opinion, the whole road to IndyCar in terms of getting to IndyCar.
Well, I mean, and I think it's funny because F1 is one of the biggest sports in the world, but I feel like a lot of people are really coming around to it and noticing it and getting a better look at it with this whole, Netflix Drive to Survive. They're getting a good look behind. Everybody's always had their favorite drivers, especially the rivalry between Hamilton and Verstappen last year was incredible in that end. But I think a lot of people are now starting to kind of see it. I mean, a lot of people knew it existed, but a lot of people that in motorsport, like me, I never quite followed it until about 2 years ago. And so it's been very interesting. I've followed Indy for a long time just because obviously being American,
Sure.
I feel like it's the American thing to do.
Yeah.
Apple pie and things like that. So, but the politics behind it, I mean, I never knew. I mean, I knew there was a lot of money behind it. I knew there was a lot of politics, but watching the head of Red Bull and the head of Mercedes go at each other, which is just fun. Saying this to our listeners, if you have Netflix or have access to Drive to Survive, start from the beginning, watch all 4 seasons. It's incredible. So
yeah, we need something like that for IndyCar.
Yeah,
just saying.
I feel like they'd be nicer.
I think it's being worked on.
Sweet.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but
you could say you think it's being worked on. I think it's being worked on.
I'd like to think that it works in F1. I'd like to think that it's being worked on. Yeah.
He's reading that off of the back of a card. Yeah. This is what I'm supposed to say. Yeah.
And by the way, I will edit this a lot, but Benjamin is very sick and he's joining us anyway graciously. So thank you for that. I was going to ask you, so getting in the driver's seat, what was your first race like? And it could be F4, F3, Indy Light. Like, what was the first one that like hit you the hardest of that series? Was it stepping into an F4 race the first time, or is it stepping into Indy Lights? Like, which one of those was the big oh man moment?
That's a tough question. I don't think I've been asked that. I think that it's more so the biggest moment would be the first time in the F4 car, like the first time in an open wheel car coming out of go-karting, because you have nothing else to compare it to, right? So you're in a car that's a lot faster. The F4 car is capable of doing like 140 mile an hour. Like, it's a fast
Yeah.
car. So I remember the first test very clearly, even though it's, I was only 15 years old. And then from there, you know what it's like. So then from there, it's just first race, first qualifying, first time in the wet. But the first time in the car, that's the first of everything at once. So I think that's what speaks to me the most. But you got to start somewhere. There's a start for everything. So
Any major embarrassing moments while you were getting your feet wet in that?
not that I can remember. No, I think in hindsight, looking back, it was a good debut. Obviously, like first test day, you're not up to speed of what a seasoned F4 racer would be doing, but
Right.
you build up to it, right? So no, I'm very happy with how it's shaped out in hindsight. So
I guess it's how you get the sponsors, right?
it's a part of it, yeah.
Something that I have been hyper focusing on now and learning about F1 and Indy, and it's something that I kind of knew. They're talking a lot more about their training, and one of the things they talk about training and show most is the neck, because of the amount of G's that you take. Talk a little bit about your training for that, as far as, being in a car and driving down the street doesn't take much, but when you're going through a corner at 2.5, 3 G's, that can be a lot.
Yeah, so after moving here to Indianapolis, I started working with a trainer called Jeff Richter. His company's called Zeal Performance, and he trains just race car drivers. And then as a side thing, also a couple individual athletes. But racing is his main thing. So I train every morning with a lot of IndyCar guys. Not necessarily at the same time. We have different time slots, but we kind of run into each other. So it's 5 days a week, hour and a half every morning. I usually go run again in the evening or whatever I do. So I train twice a day. So it's almost 2 hours a day. Right now, the big focus being in Indy Lights, the next step is IndyCar. An IndyCar race can be up to 2 hours. So your cardio needs to be really good. But more so your strength needs to be really strong, because the IndyCar, with the amount of downforce it makes, there's no power steering. The brake pressures are ridiculously high. Whereas in F1, you have power steering. The steering's a lot lighter. So everything from what I've heard, the IndyCar is just brutal with what you need in terms of fitness. So it's a lot of hard work. People don't really realize, people think you just show up, you drive a car, you go back home, drink Coke all day and go about
spray
it.
champagne all over everybody. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
But no, it's a lot of hard work. My weight can't be more than 165 pounds, just me in my underwear. So it's really hard balance being, you want to be strong, but that adds weight. You want to be cardio fit. So it's just, it's a lot of hard work, but everything is looking good right now in my favor. So.
Well, I've heard for a long time, like open wheel drivers are some of the like most physically fit athletes in the world. They're up there with like Olympic swimmers as far as endurance to be able to run those series. Like, it's insane the work that has to go into that.
I think, I have a big respect for whatever form of sport you're in, whether you're a football player or a golf player or a swimmer. The best guys are extremely fit because they want to be the best in their sport. The other day, for example, I ran 8 miles. I think the average pace was 7:15 per mile. So if you're a runner or do any kind of training, you would know that that's pretty quick. So it's just kind of a reference in terms of the fitness level I'm at from a cardio perspective. And then strength, we're just trying to get stronger and stronger every day for the raw strength for IndyCar.
Man, yeah, it's a full-time job. When people say full-time job, I'm like, no, it's pretty much when you wake up to when you go to sleep. From everything I've been told, yeah.
Yeah, I have a 2-bedroom apartment here in Indy. My second bedroom's my sim room, so I spend a lot of time on the sim. Usual day, I wake up at 7 every day. I go to training in the morning. By the time I'm done, it's noon. I gotta eat, so I gotta eat lunch, come home, rest for a little bit. There's usually some meetings I need to do, or engineering meeting, whatever it is. Then the evenings I'll be on the sim with my coach. It's totally normal to be on the sim for 2 to 3 hours. Then you get dinner, and then it's time for bed, and you do it again. But there's nothing about it that I don't like. It's a really enjoyable thing. But yeah, it's busy. It's full time.
Sounds intense. Now, you've done some esports as well. I was going to ask you about that. Like, it was an invitational, I think I saw that you did. Now, I'm just using Wikipedia as a reference, so God knows how accurate that is. But I wanted to ask you about esports, and 'cause obviously you do a lot of sim time.
Yep, it's intense. You sweat a lot. It's I basically describe there's two types of sim racers. There's your average guy that's brand new to sim racing that, has no experience. They're just trying to survive on there. They're just trying not to crash. That's all they think about. If they can improve their lap time by 8 seconds.
Dan and I are raising our hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can improve your lap time by 8 seconds, that's a great day. Then you're good. Go have a beer, then that's it. Now you have your pro sim racers where, you don't need to worry about crashing. You're more so focused on the actual driving. And when you get to that point, you can focus on fuel saving. You can focus on in and out laps during pit stops. You can focus on actual pit stops. You can focus on race starts, tire test. There's so many things you can practice on the sim. But until you get to that level where you don't worry about, quote unquote, just crashing all the time, it's hard to really use it as a tool. So when you get to that point, it's a massive tool in terms of that.
I'm just still free driving in Forza.
Yeah, there you go. Most guys are on iRacing on the PC.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're using.
I don't have a simulator, but I'm on Forza, and I just do it because of the weight restrictions, because I haven't been 165 since I was like 7.
There you go. Yeah,
yeah.
No weight restrictions on the sim, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, just whatever computer chair you're sitting on.
Yep.
So.
All right, so we've talked cars extensively. I do want to jump a little over, though, and ask more about you. What else is there to you outside of the racing? I know you don't have a lot of time for a lot, but I know there's more to you than that.
I've been starting to play a bit of golf here in Indy. So I'd say golfing, but honestly, I try to just be balanced with whatever it is in life. I try not to say, I do racing and golf and that's it. Like, that's not really how I am. If there's an opportunity to go play tennis or to go swimming or whatever it is, I'm down. Just try to be as balanced as possible. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm pretty open book. Go to a alligator farm. I did that the other day when I was in Florida. Whatever it is, I'm open to trying new things. So that's kind of how I
no
go
motorcycles, but we'll go to an alligator farm. Yeah, but that sounds safe.
Yeah.
I mean, totally. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Because you don't need both hands to drive an Indycar.
Just don't hug them, you'll be fine.
I kept my distance. Went on like an airboat ride and everything, but
that'd be fun actually.
Yeah.
That's just jealousy in my voice. Sorry.
All right, so how's the season going so far then? Like, I mean, you've had a pretty good, strong season from what I've read. I mean, what's next for you? When's the next race?
So we started our season in St. Petersburg. That's, I want to say, like 3 weeks ago. Finished second at the season opener. So great start to the year.
Nice, yeah.
Great points. We just got to be at the top all the time. Not necessarily P1 every weekend, but top 3 is if we can be there all week, that all the season, then that's the goal. We were pretty much fastest in every preseason test up to that. So I think we're right where we need to be. To be honest, I think St. Petersburg is probably one of my weaker tracks on the calendar where we had our season opener. Just being the fact that, it's a street course, it gets, shut down for a week and then it's open again to the road. So you can't go testing there. My only previous experience was there last year, and you only get, a couple sessions to learn it. Whereas a lot of the other tracks we're going to from now on, I've raced that since F4, so completely different level of experience for the rest of the tracks we go to now. A couple new ones. We go to Nashville this year, street race, which will be super cool. We go to Iowa, another oval. I think that's it in terms of new additions, but those should be some cool events.
Nashville's a cool city, so hopefully you'll be able to chance to go out and play there too, because that's a cool spot.
Yeah, I don't think I'll get to play very much during the race weekend, but I'll embrace the atmosphere of the people playing.
Well, I was thinking afterwards, but understood. Yeah, not during the weekend. That's work.
We'll see.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the progression of the car? Like I know in Indy right now, it's amazed me. They have windshields now.
Yes. So our Indy Lights cars got the halo in the preseason of last year. So that was a pretty big improvement considering there was nothing before that.
Yeah.
At that same time, IndyCar introduced the Aero screen, which is the halo plus a screen around it. I think it's a great thing what IndyCar have done. I think the screen is soon to come for open wheel or for junior formula, but every junior formula right now has a halo at least. So that's great from the safety standpoint. But yeah, I mean, it keeps debris out. The only trade-off is I've heard it's crazy hot in the Indy cars. Guys are using cool shirts, helmet blowers, and it's just insane. So heat management is definitely tricky, but it pushes your physical limits to another level, and it's an opportunity to differ from the rest of the competition.
Well, I mean, those halos were all, I mean, in F1 and Indy, where everybody was against them, and then you look at situations like Verstappen putting his wheel on top of Hamilton last year and going,
Yeah.
and Toto going, I hated the halos, but I get it now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. So you've obviously been driving with a halo, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Do you see it when you're driving? Because I always feel like it would be like the center line.
So when you sit, you all have like the U on top of on your head, and then you have the middle piece that goes down in front, like a flip flop. When you're sitting in the seat and you put your visor down with the visor banner that's on your visor, you can't even see the U part. All you see is the going down part in middle of you.
That's what I was talking about. I was wondering if that, like the flip flop part, would bother you.
That part just blends in like an antenna on your road car. So even though you could literally look at your antenna all day long, you just merge it out of the way. And a lot of the time it's rare that we're looking straight, except when we're on the straightaway. A lot of times we're either looking into the next corner, so our eyes are away from the centerpiece. So you honestly, you don't. I remember my first time driving with the Halo, and I forgot I was driving with it from first lap. So it's and that's what everyone says. So it's really easy.
So I'd imagine I would equate it to like wipers almost instantaneously, where they're just there and you don't really care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's your favorite street car? What are you driving right now, first of all? Your personal car?
I just sold my first car that I had growing up, which was a Mark 7 Volkswagen GTI that was tuned by Ock Tuning in Washington.
Yeah, we had them on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, they'll be tuning the S3 soon.
Super cool car. Stage 2, everything lowered, like super cool car. And then I found a new car because I'm going to be doing a lot of driving while I'm here in Indy because I don't really need to fly to most places from here because it's such a central location for our races. So I knew I'd be doing a lot of driving, and I said I think it'd be nice with an upgrade. So I got an Audi RS5 2019.
Nice.
Absolutely love it. So that's my daily right now.
Super comfortable, plenty of room. Yeah.
Yep.
Great car.
Yep.
What's your favorite?
What's my favorite between the two?
No. I mean, like if you're gonna go, like you got the money, you're just gonna go buy a car. But let me limit it a little bit to a car you have driven. So not just like McLaren F1, like everyone else in the world.
991 GT2 RS.
Hard to argue with that.
Something subtle. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All
you
black.
Like cars that want to kill you, don't you?
All black.
Yeah, black on black. Yeah. Y-Sack package?
It's a cool story. Because it was a good point you made. You have to have driven the car to say it. It was at Pacific Raceways. A guy came up to me and I was instructing, and he said, I obviously got Don's approval. He said, "I'd love for your feedback between my GT3 RS and his GT2 RS."
That?
So I drove.
Was it red?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
But I went out, drove the GT3, like hot lap. Then he said, "All right, here's the GT2. Go try it." Drove that, and it was so cool. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with 710 horsepower and then all that weight perfectly right over the traction. So
if you're gonna pick a car that you want to go track and then drive home and it's still comfortable, I'd say GT2 RS. I mean, for a race car driver, but GT3 will get the job done as well.
Yep, I think I know who that was actually. I think I remember that story coming from him. I think actually.
Okay, so, what was his take on it?
If it's the same person, I think he said that he realized how far above him the GT2 RS was.
Yeah.
Just as far as putting down the power. And he's extremely, if he's listening to this, I think he is, extremely humble guy. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And he loves his GT3 RS, but he was like, he realized how much growing room there was between the 3 and the 2 RS. So, and loved them both. But yeah, I think he still has both, doesn't he, Nick?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
His Porsche collection is growing. Tell me a little bit about the technologies that you've seen coming up through the ranks that you really like. I mean, things that have improved the sports. I mean, we talked about halos, but things, to me, when you said about the windshield and they're getting hotter, it's the last thing you want to do is get hotter in a race car, especially when you're racing in some hotter climates.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, on that topic with heat, the tech in terms of our seats has come a long way. Every season when we pour a seat, so the seat is perfectly made to our body. We basically sit in a big trash bag. Foam gets poured in, and then it molds to our body. It gets trimmed, covered. It fits like a glove. What they've started to do now is taking that seat that's covered in like Alcantara, and then you basically in the middle of it, where the spine and down to your butt, they basically cut it open, put like a bit of a mesh air thing, and then it connects to a air hose. So basically, when you're driving, it pushes air into the back of your back, so your core temperature stays down like that. So from that perspective, that's really cool. The tech there, the tech within Indycar, helmet blowers, everything that's been around for a while. In terms of other tech, from video debriefs, we have a thing called not Dirtfish, but it's called Dartfish with an A. It's basically, it's like when you're driving in Forza and you're racing your ghost lap time. If you take external video that maybe your spotter is recording from the actual track, you take a video of your car going through a section on the track, you take a video of your opponent's car going through, you edit it, then you replay it with the cars driving like in between each other, like on each other, and you can see the differences in line and everything, which is pretty cool when you think about taking two raw videos.
That's really cool.
And comparing. So it's basically like your Forza Ghost, but real life, edited and played at the same time, so you can see the difference between line, rolling speed, everything like that. So that's a cool tool in terms of data debrief. Struggling to think of other, there's so many things that have come a long way, but those are two things that kind of speak to mind.
That's the first I've heard of that. That's really cool.
I wasn't aware that you guys didn't have power steering. I knew F1 did yeah, I was
pretty much every junior Formula open wheel, except when you get to F1, everything, there's no power steering. The brakes are manual force. There's no brake booster or anything like that. So I think we did the math the other day. The actual brake pressure when you brake in a Formula car, it's a big hard peak, and then you bleed off, like you trail brake. The initial peak it's like over 200 pounds. I think it's like 250 pounds of actual pressing. So if you're doing a leg press just with your left leg, that's how hard you actually have to press. It gets physical, and a lot of the time it'll be a corner brake zone, 5 seconds corner brake zone, then you get the straightaway, and then it's straight into another full lap. So it's not a lot of rest. So yeah,
I'm cramping thinking about it.
Well, let alone the positions you're sitting at in an Indy car or an F1 car. The F1 car, your feet are practically above your head. Talk a little bit about the seating position that you in your car now.
It's basically like if you were to sit on the floor on your butt, bring your feet up off the ground and just bring your back a little bit. You kind of sit in this U shape. So it's not like your tractor position, I'll tell you that. But it's actually very comfortable once you're in there, and your custom seat, everything like that. Your belts are done up nicely. It's very comfortable. You don't move around at all. So you're very fixed. And it's just pure raw power from that point of leg strength, core strength, neck strength. I didn't answer your question. You asked about the neck strength when we talked about the training. We use a thing called the iron neck. It's like a swivel that goes on your head with a bungee cord, and your trainer would be like holding it at different angles, and it swivels around very easily. So that's one way we train it. But honestly, the main way to train the neck is driving. So you typically see at the start of the year in preseason testing, your neck will be a bit sore. And then by the time the season starts, after you've had, many test days, your neck's fully up to speed again, just because you've been driving. So that's the main thing.
Interesting. The technology behind the cars is amazing to me. Open and covered wheeled racing. As far as, what's in there, what's protecting you, because obviously these cars, talk a little bit about the crash protection. Talk about if things go bad, what you have that's kind of.
Yeah. What was your first crash like? Everybody crashes.
Yeah. I don't remember what my first crash was, but from a safety.
It was at Legoland. They don't want to talk about it. Yeah. There was bricks everywhere.
Nice. You got me distracted there. Oh yeah, yeah. No, so our safety, our main source of safety is the tub that we sit in, the carbon fiber monocoque. It's like a big bathtub, honestly. You sit in it, And the whole car gets built around that. So you basically have the tub, you attach the engine and gearbox to the back of it, you attach all your wishbone, suspension, and that's your starting point for your car. Basically, in a crash, the car is designed for everything around the tub to fall off. So as long as the tub stays intact, that's the main thing. So you'll see times like a full engine goes flying off the back of the car, wishbones, like full corners flying off. But the main thing is like what we're sitting in, that stays intact. So that's our main source of safety. And it is that way all the way from F4 up to F1, whatever junior form. The concept's the exact same.
Literally a cockpit.
Yep.
Yeah, like a jet fighter. Yeah.
Made out of carbon fiber. Usually what happens if you hear someone say, oh, the car was tubbed, it means in a crash, the structural integrity, something maybe started to penetrate the tub. It didn't, so the tub did its job. But now the tub is no longer safe and you need to have a new tub, which is kind of like getting a brand new car if you need a new tub. So yeah, it's not great if you tub a car, but it's better.
But you're still alive to tell the
It's
truth.
racing.
Yeah. Yep. That's how it goes.
When they talk about paying your dues, I mean, do you have to spend so much time in each level before you can go up?
It's a good question. It's you have the example of Max Verstappen in F1 now.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Who joined F1, I think he was 17, which is crazy.
It's so insane.
And in a way, I mean this as humbly as possible, but he almost kind of destroyed, or not destroyed, that's an aggressive word, but he kind of hurt how drivers should come up through the ranks, if that makes sense, because he's such an extreme example of what has been able to be, what he's achieved. I'm personally a big believer. You shouldn't rush it. You shouldn't wait too long because then you'll miss opportunities. But you got to be ready moving up to the next step. You take someone like Verstappen, he was ready just at a very young age. Most people can't do what he did, or be able to be in the position he was in to get those opportunities. But I think if you look at it systematically in F4, I think 2 years of F4 is great. Another 2 years in F3, F2 or Indy Lights, maybe you can do it in one because now you have the experience, right? And then go to Indycar or F1, depending on what road you're in. But it's like with any craft, whether you're in college studying business, you can't cheat the system. You got to learn what you got to learn. But you get to the point where, you know quite a lot and you're able to make the next professional step. So I think that's kind of how I would go about it.
But there's nothing in the rule books that says you have to do so many races in certain things. As long as tomorrow if an Indy team invites you to come be the driver, you're available to do that kind of thing.
100%.
Okay.
Where I don't think you would see an F4 car or F4 driver making the jump to IndyCar, but again, it's within reason. Everything's within reason. You could see an F3 driver maybe go to IndyCar, but that would be extreme. Indy Lights to IndyCar, no brainer for sure, because that's the next step.
I feel like Days of Thunder was a total lie.
Get out there and hit the pace car. It's the only thing you haven't hit. Yeah.
Rubbin's racing.
Absolutely.
When is your next race coming up?
May 1st at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit weird. We started the season and then it was like, bam, now you guys have a 2-month break. And then once we get going again at Barber May 1st, then it's just mayhem from there. It just takes off. It's like every race weekend, or every weekend is a race weekend, and it gets busy for sure. So right now it's kind of like we started the season, but now we're in break again. So
and who are you racing for currently?
Global Racing Group with HMD Motorsports. The main part of it being based out of HMD Motorsports shop here in Brownsburg, Indiana. My entry is a Global Racing Group with HMD car, but it's all kind of run through HMD Motorsports.
I bet that's kind of a cool area to live in with the amount of motorsports shops that are around there and the history and yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, every IndyCar team is pretty much based here. The people that work within IndyCar are based here. You can drive to most tracks we race to within 3-4 hours. So it's just, it's the place to be. If you're on the road to IndyCar, you should be here 100%.
We got to get out there, Dan. I've never been to Indy.
I've been to a trade show there. I've never been there for anything but a motorcycle trade show.
Gotta go to the Indy 500. I went for the
Yes.
first time last year, and it was only 50% capacity. This year it's wide open, snake pit, everything concert. It's gonna be crazy. I mean, it's the biggest sporting event in the world. Um, uh, Not sporting event, but biggest stadium in terms of how many people can be there.
Right.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, I just did Circuit of Americas for F1 last year in
Oh
October,
yeah,
and that was insane.
yeah.
I'm just trying to. I was thinking about going to Miami this year, but I think it's going to be just such a show that I just don't know if I want to do it yet.
Coda's insane. I have good memories there. So when I raced F4, started in 16, raced in 17. We raced at Coda with F1 as a support race. I won that event.
Nice.
It's one of the coolest race wins I could talk about today. We raced literally right before the F1 race, so all the crowd was there, everything like that. And as a young racer, it doesn't get cooler than that, racing in front of F1, and definitely one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Everybody thought I was crazy, but we watched the F4 race that happened before, or I guess it was F4 before this year's race, and I think it was more exciting than watching F1. I mean, like, because
Yeah,
we kind of knew what was going to happen in F1, but you could see people that were really trying and pushing, and it was a fun thing to see and know
yeah,
that somebody in those cars is going to be racing in Indy or F1 real soon.
yeah. And to your point, like with the junior formula, everyone being in the same cars, it's kind of like the difference between F1 and IndyCar again. You see IndyCar, there's a lot more tight racing because everyone's in the same equipment. Whereas F1, you get the spread, which is fine, but it's just the difference between F1 and IndyCar with different rules and everything like that.
I'd like to see that in F1 because I think there's so much talent there. Like, I mean, one of my favorite things about this season, obviously in F1 starting this weekend, is Bottas not being able to be told to hold back for Hamilton. So we'll see how good he really is. So
Yep.
yeah,
I think it's important you have F1 though, where it is leading innovation in even in road cars. So if
Yeah.
you take that part away, then you stop the innovation in road cars and the future of that. So I mean, when you look at how, I couldn't tell you the number, so maybe not the best argument, but I know the fuel numbers of an F1 car, how efficient they are. It's mind blowing. They don't refuel during the race, yet they're putting out over 1,000 horsepower, driving for almost 2 hours. It's mind blowing, the performance without burning the fuel that they have to figure out, and that goes straight into the street cars, which is very important for the future.
like you said, you got to manage your fuel. And I mean, look at Aston Martin this year, where the fact that he got disqualified because they couldn't have enough fuel in his tank to test it at the end of the race.
Yep.
And you're right, the hybrid technology that came down. I mean, you look at things like LaFerrari and places like that, and the SF90 and things like that. Trickle down is pretty amazing. So
Yep, absolutely.
I was gonna ask about that. There's a boost button, right, for IndyCar now too? Is it 50 horsepower boost?
Yep, push to pass. I mean, we're going to the same system as IndyCar, but basically you have a certain amount of seconds that you can push it. So it's kind of like you activate it and deactivate it with the push of a button, and you get 50 more horsepower. So you got to be smart about it. When you use it, do you use it on the start? Do you save it for later in the race when tires are dropping off, fuel save, everything like that? Yeah, it's a good tool. You have to be smart about it, but it's great that we are learning to race with it now in Indy Lights so that we're prepared for it for IndyCar.
How does the system work in Indy?
Yeah, I was going to say, how often can you use it, and how's it work?
I think it's like 200 or 300 seconds. I think it's 300 seconds within a race. Don't quote me, but that's just an example. And basically, it's literally like if you have a 20-second straightaway and you want to activate it for the whole straightaway, your timer starts. So if you use it for 20 seconds, now you have 280 seconds left for the rest of the race. So it's all about managing when you want to use it. You do it for pace on in and out laps, even though you're not racing anyone, and try to make passes happen in pit lane, or do you actually use it just for raw passing? So that's kind of how it works.
Huh.
And 50 horsepower is pretty substantial when you're racing a car that's built the exact same spec as you, if they're not using it.
Yeah. Is it a kinetic system though, or is it like a restrictor system?
It's a wastegate for the turbo.
Oh, I was like, I don't know nearly enough about Indy or Indy Lights. So, Indy Lights.
I mean, even with my research in F1, I'm still confused on how they get it, and when they can get it, and how they can get it.
The F1 is a bit more complicated because they have the MGUK, the battery
Yeah.
hybrid, which is a lot of power. It's like, I think it's 150 to 200 horsepower. So that's why you'll see on like a F1 quali lap, which is just one lap raw power. Usually the lap before, or even laps prior to that, they have to recharge the batteries so that when they open their lap, it's full deployment, and it only lasts for like a lap, and they're making over 1,000 horsepower at that state.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that's what those cars need, is more horsepower.
Yeah.
18,000 RPMs and then bam.
So, I mean, we've talked about the future. Where do you see these sports going? Where do you see Indy going in the future? Like, what technologies, what things are we going to be seeing?
I think if you take Indy Lights right now, there is no better time to be in Indy Lights than right now. This year, Roger Penske and IndyCar took over all of Indy Lights. I mean, that's the best thing you could ask for, with Penske running everything IndyCar. The way everything is structured, the attention around it, the rewards for doing well in the series to go to IndyCar has never been better than it is right now. So being under the same, tech support, scrutineering, everything is the same as IndyCar. Our race director is the same as IndyCar. So everything is really in our favor to make the transition as natural as possible. So from that perspective, there's no better time to be in Indy Lights. Within IndyCar, it's the biggest grid sizes there's ever been, the most international group of drivers that has ever been, from all forms of open wheel. You got, Roman Grosjean driving for Andretti now, Marcus Ericsson, Pato Award, like guys from all over F1, whatever it is, you name it, Super Formula in Japan. It's so diverse. The competition's so high. Every team is super high level. So it's just super competitive. And, I think the fans, sponsors, everyone's realizing that around the sport right now. So it's, it's a great time to be involved. That's for sure.
Do you have a really good camaraderie with the other drivers? You seem like you guys would. From what I've seen, it seems like the drivers in IndyCar and Indy Lights seem to, from what I've watched, get along pretty well.
Well, since moving here and training, I've gotten to know a lot. Every morning I see Connor Daly, Ed Carpenter, Jack Harvey, Felix Rosenquist trains there, Pato Award, Newgarden trains remotely. I know Roman Grosjean really well, Rinus VK, Kyle Kirk. Like I'm friends with all of them pretty much. So it's a good group. It's obviously you want to be in that group because that's the next step for me. But yeah, being close to them, training with them, it's a lot of fun. It gets pretty competitive, but I think the key is being able to separate. You're at the track, how you think about it when you're at the track, being competitive, whereas when you're home training, it's kind of a different mindset.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously your family supported this and still does to this day and supports you. But if somebody, thinks they have a child that has talent, should they start them in motocross? Should they start them in karts? Where's the best place to start?
The best place for sure, I mean, for car racing is in go-karting. Again, when you're ready to make that decision to, my kid is going to go racing, you got options, right? So just like you have options when it comes to open wheel within, the road to F1 with F4, F3, F2, F1, or IndyCar, that ladder system. Same thing with go-karting. You got, do they race in SCUSA? Do they race in SCUSA Winter Series? Do they race in, Briggs and Stratton 206 4-stroke series, which is a lot more cost effective. It depends on what position you're in coming up through go-karting. If you're someone that wants to, really go race, then I think you should be in SCUSA, SKUSA karting, which is, you got huge karting events in like the Super Nats in Las Vegas every year where they race at the strip. It shuts down the parking lot and you go race there. Hundreds of racers from all over the country, even the world. So if you're someone that wants to really go race, that's where you need to be in go-karting. And then, but if you're just trying to get an intro, maybe you go do some rental karting or 206 4-stroke racing. That, there's a lot of options. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for.
He said rental karting, not rental carring.
I heard the same thing for a
don't
second.
Don't go to Hertz and rental something and then go drive through the parking lot at Las Vegas and say you did it.
No, not that.
So, yeah.
Nothing handles like a rental car.
I said
nothing handles like a Buick. Yeah.
Yeah, you pretty much grew up at PGP here.
I did. I've done a lot of laps at PGP with Scott and, a lot of the guys out there. Very grateful. I still try to catch up with them, whenever I can or when I'm in town. Scott helped me. Scott is the one that runs all of PGP. He helped me. I did a bit of shifter kart practice during the time of COVID when I was racing in British F3. I came back to Seattle due to COVID, and then I bought a shifter kart. Scott helped me run it, so super grateful for his support for helping me be able to, and that's in British F3. It's pretty high level junior formula, and he was able to help me with karting there. So yeah, I haven't been out there for a while, but hope they're all doing well.
Well, you're 22 years old. You're living in Indy. You're a professional race car driver. I'd imagine life is pretty fun.
I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely not taking it for granted. I'm working extremely hard.
Oh no, I don't get that impression for a second, man.
But no, I definitely enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy. I think a lot of people would be like, man, that's a lot of exercise and everything, but it doesn't feel like a task because I enjoy every aspect. I enjoy the training. I enjoy the sim, and as long as you enjoy it, it's not a job. It's not a task. So that's really the key. That's how I know I'm doing. That's how I know I'm doing what I love. Yeah, I'm just constantly trying to get better. So, and at the same time, staying balanced in life, doing random, new things, going out to eat, whatever it is. So just trying to stay as balanced as possible.
Dan, you and I would do very well if somebody paid us to be in better shape. I mean, if somebody was paying me to get up and go to the gym every morning, I would be much more motivated.
It's not that, to be honest. It's more the competitive edge that drives you from training.
Sure. Yeah.
It's nothing to do with that. It's more like to know that over the course of 3 weeks, if you work harder with your cardio, if you have a training in the morning and you can be better cardio wise and you work at it during the evenings for 3 weeks and you can make a jump on someone, that's what drives me. That's what makes me want to do that. So yeah, it's all about getting a competitive edge.
No, I wasn't
professional
saying
athletes.
you were financially motivated. I'm just saying that's the only way they're going to get me in the gym.
Oh,
I
got you.
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah,
I know what drives you. Like I said, competition. I mean,
that's fair statement.
Competition was,
that's a fair statement.
So, exactly.
So if we want to watch you race, how do we do that? How do we watch Indy Lights?
It's on Peacock TV with, I think it's USA Network, because NBCSN isn't a thing anymore. But Peacock TV is the easiest way to watch.
And so we can get that streaming then. So
yes.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, I will find that link and I will post it into your episode notes, and I will post.
Social media, Benjamin Pedersen 24 on Instagram and Facebook, and Twitter is bpetersen 24. All right. But yeah.
Listeners, I will put that in the show notes as well as the Avance article. Talks about you. Adam was nice enough to get that published today. So you'll have that at the time this episode comes out, listeners. And then, I'll give you all the info so you can follow Benjamin. And hopefully we will see you racing this season. And, well, I know we will, but hopefully we'll see you winning the season. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on the show. I know you're sick. Like I said, listeners, I will do my best to edit that out and make you sound good. I know you're not feeling your best, so I hope you a speedy recovery for some speedy driving.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. For this episode of the Avance Podcast, I'm Nick.
I'm Dan, and don't just get there. Enjoy the drive.